And I said, well, just don't go over and do your laundry in their house and steal their wine and you'll be
Should you
fine.
look at them or not?
It's 7 o'clock and we're ready to go.
Hey.
Good way to meet him. Hey, can I borrow your pen? Let's see. Not here. You all set, Heather?
We are, yes.
All right. I will call this meeting of the City of Bowling Green's Planning Commission to order then. This is our March 4th meeting. We did not meet last month. But we met in January, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so it's been a couple months. Chase, you want to call the roll, please?
Yes. Ms. Broadwell,
Here.
Ms. Denbo,
Here.
Ms. Ennis,
Here,
Mr. McComber,
Here.
Mr. Remus,
Here.
Mr. Stalter,
Here.
Mr. Waddle.
Here.
Okay, thank you. The next thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which have been passed out to all the members here beforehand. I did notice one thing that needs to be corrected on that, Chase. Right at the start there, when we've got a listing of the members present and members absent, Mr. Waddle appears in both categories. My recollection is he was absent.
I don't know. I think we should question it. You're half here.
he's good. He probably split in half.
It can only be one of the two. Other than that, everything looks fine to me. Does anybody else have any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I would just say that is really good that you caught that. I looked right over that. So. Good on you. Wow.
Caught it. All righty, the minutes are approved then as they were passed out to everybody. Lobby visitation is next. We, is oftentimes the case, have a small crowd here tonight, but does anybody want to address the commission in lobby visitation? All right, I'll close lobby visitation. We'll go on to the main business of the evening. We have had a number of proposed text amendments to Chapter 150 of the zoning code. And I'm sure all of you have seen on the agenda here that the various sections that amendments are proposed for are listed there. I'm not going to read them all off here tonight before we start the various sections. They're all in Section 150, and the way this is going to need to work is we have to have a public hearing before we can do any voting on these. So that won't happen until the next meeting. But Heather is going to go through the corrections or the changes one by one with us this evening. And you have a chance and feel free to ask questions. When we meet in April, we won't go through the various sections one by one again. We'll see if anything comes up in the public hearing. And you'll have another chance to ask any questions or make any comments you want to make, but we won't go over each individual amendment. That will happen right now. Heather?
Okay, so part of your packet was the document of proposed changes from staff. And then I don't know if you like how I did this, but I did a memo with the changes and I put a reason code by each change. I was hoping that would be helpful, but I'm open to any feedback.
I thought that was very well
I
done,
do too.
Heather.
Yeah,
Okay,
very well
good.
done.
That was
I
excellently-
think the amount of
Yeah.
information that the planning department gave us was excellent.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the feedback so we know in the future too how to help break everything down. So I'll go over this, as Bob said, fairly briefly, but I will touch on, again, each proposed edit, and the general reason why. So a lot of the changes that are being proposed are related to the city's process of changing from paper applications and submittals to digital. So that, again, is a big portion of these, but there are some other changes that we found over the past year or so that we make notes on them and try to bring them to you at one time. So it's a little bit of everything here. So the first one, again, is about a certificate of appropriateness being submitted, basically taking out the word written. So again, a lot of the changes were taking out the word written. So no contractor, owner, agent of the owner may make any alterations as defined in section 158.03A to any listed property or historic district unless a valid COA has been issued by the Historic Preservation Commission. So again, we took out written. That leaves it open to us so you don't have to have it written and it could be digital. So something else that we have been wanting to change over the past year is how the vision clearance triangle is measured, which is under section 150.18. So right now, we don't think it's very clear how it can be measured. We think it reads basically that you have to use the lot lines. And that has created some issues with measuring some corners where we have complaints, and we're using the lot line instead of the edge of the right-of-way. So the edge of the right-of-way is what we're proposing that it gets measured from instead. We talked to other administrative staff about this, especially our public works director, and he agreed that he would prefer also it be measured from the edge of the right-of-way. So that's why that's being proposed. And also in correspondence with that, we had to change the definition, which is at the back of the code for vision clearance triangle.
Heather, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you give me an extreme example of how much that would change a triangle? Worst case scenario, like a couple feet, a foot, 10 feet? What do you, like, give me an extreme example.
I can't think of an extreme example. All I can say is right-of-ways are confusing for everybody in
Yep.
general.
And that's why I'm asking, like, it's because the lot lines aren't confusing, right? They're not confusing. Like, we know where
Well,
those are.
Okay, here's a good worst-case scenario. Lot lines in older areas of the city can go to the center of the road.
Yep.
Like Napoleon, that's a good example of, we have some still out in the center of Napoleon. So if we got a vision triangle complaint, it's
You're
not
not gonna measure from the center of the road.
correct.
Sure.
I mean, that's what it says we'd have to do, which wouldn't help with the visibility issue.
That's actually an extreme situation like that.
Yes.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Okay.
And when there's sidewalks present, it makes it pretty easy to know where the right of way is. It's about a foot inside the sidewalk where it ends. And then there's a lot of other areas that don't have sidewalks.
Yep.
So it makes it a little more difficult. So
Okay.
hopefully that
I'm just,
helps.
no, it does. That helps. And do you get a decent amount of these
Yes.
complaints every year?
We do.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I can talk about later when I review our 2025 report.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. So the next proposed change is in section 150.42, the comprehensive use table. So, honestly, I think this is more of an error than anything, but Chase actually found, if you go to specific use regulations for adult-oriented businesses, or I'm sorry, that's the wrong category, telecommunications facilities, that we have them listed as all the zoning districts being conditional. Well, if you look at the use table, it was put in as permitted under institutional. So we ran across that error and just wanted to get cleaned up. We really think it's just a typo, but I want to make sure everybody was aware of that, and that needs updated to conditional. The next one is under section 150.44, accessory uses. What we're proposing is that accessory structures cannot be located in the front yard setback, whether or not the shed or accessory structure is 100 square feet or less in size. We've had this come up. We didn't feel really that we had any teeth to not allow a shed or accessory structure 100 square feet or less to not be in the front yard setback. So we simply want to change these two categories in the table to say even if an accessory structure is 100 square feet or less, it cannot be in the front yard.
So it's, as long as it meets that, for example, let's say we have a structure that's, let's say the setback's 35 feet. We have a structure that's 50 feet back, and we have an accessory structure that's 10 by 10. It could still be in front of that house because it would be outside the 35-foot setback.
Correct.
Okay. I'm sure there's not many in the city that sit back that far, but maybe there's more than I think.
Correct. Probably more so in the
Is there?
more outskirts of town where the lots are a little deeper.
Yeah, where they
yeah.
could do that. Yeah, okay. All right, super.
Heather, that change is made by just the language used is same as applicable to principal structures?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So under 150.79 fences, This relates back to the vision triangle. There was some text that doesn't match. So basically, the vision triangle at the beginning of the code says that basically you could have a fence that's 2 feet or less in height. Well, if you go to fences now, it says no fences shall be installed in the vision triangle. So we basically just wanted to add the same language as the vision triangle, that no fences of greater than 2 feet in height shall be installed in the vision triangle, clearance triangle. So again, just cleaning that up so it matches the current language.
Would anybody ever want to put up a fence that's
That's
less
what
than
I
2
was
feet in
wondering.
height?
In the vision triangle?
Yeah, the vision triangle?
Yeah, they
Anything's
would.
possible, yes. We've had some, whether it's just kind of demarcating their property and, just showing that, please don't walk in my property or
Thing that's
let your
like
dog
AI.
use the restroom in my front yard. So we've had scenarios where people just want to, show the boundaries of their property.
Okay.
Under 150.81, outdoor lighting, this is some changes that came up from our utilities director that we thought also made sense, but it's really just more of a language preference. So he's proposing that in A, we say outdoor lighting intensity must be limited to reduce nuisance neighboring uses and avoid or limit light pollution, instead of saying and protect the night sky from. So again, I don't think it really changes any type of enforcement or regulation, just he prefers it reads that way.
Can you define light pollution for me?
Well, I don't think I can define it, but what we would utilize is that outdoor lighting regulation table that's later down in our zoning code.
Okay.
We're not proposing any changes to that, though, so I didn't include it in your packet.
But
we still have-
down as a question, like, what is light pollution, right? Is it arbitrary? Is it measured?
It's actually measured by using that table, and I don't have that as part of it.
It's
As
on
long as
page
it's not
83.
arbitrary, then that's fine.
Mark, it's on page 83 if you have your binder at home, the table.
Later down there, okay.
Yeah, in your binder, your full thing at home. Yeah.
Yep, so I didn't include that because we didn't propose any changes. The second change would be, right now it says all outdoor lighting except sign illumination shall comply with the following. So we're proposing that we take out except sign illumination, so that would help give us a tool if signs are very bright to basically say you can't have a sign that's bright based on this outdoor lighting table. So the next change in the sign regulations, 150.82E, is essentially the same thing as what I just mentioned. So we're wanting to add any illuminated or electronic signage cannot exceed the outdoor lighting regulations established in section 150.81. So it's the same reasoning, but repeating it in the sign section.
So if somebody has a flashing open sign, that's still allowed as long as it doesn't provide light pollution?
So
Or are they not
yes
allowed?
and no. It depends how bright it is. So it would
Exceed, 3,000 kelvins? Is that what that's about?
yes, whatever, depending on the zoning district and using that table. So, and we consult with our electric department to help us look at these types of scenarios.
Because obviously a ton of business use the flashing illuminated open signs, right?
Right. Yes. So there is a tool that the electric department has that they can measure.
Do they ever measure?
It's only on a complaint basis at this point. So yeah, I don't think we've had any complaint signs that I can think of, but we have had outdoor lighting complaints. So I think with more of the use of LED lights, I think they appear to be a lot brighter in some cases. So we've had those. Actually, we had a couple complaints a couple weeks ago. So
And if that was the case, if somebody has a business downtown and it was really bright LED and it was obnoxious, they would have the opportunity to change that but still have an open sign. Is that an accurate statement?
I think so, if I'm following exactly what you mean by the open side. But if we got a complaint, we
In the
would.
front window, I have a lit sign that says open, right?
Yeah, oh,
And
sure.
it's super bright, brighter than what is allowed. If it's brought to their attention that it's too bright, they could change it and
Oh, yes,
to something
definitely.
that's
Open
not
sign
as
there.
bright.
Yes,
Okay.
we always give the opportunity
Right.
for compliance. That's really how we like to operate, is compliance first, definitely. Okay, anything else? Okay, so then under the same section, 150.82 sign regulations under N, temporary sign regulations, we're proposing a change to number 7, which reads, a temporary sign may be flush mounted to a building or freestanding, but it cannot move. For example, a feather sign or inflatable sign, which are not permitted. So we're proposing that we remove, but it cannot move. We've heard feedback from new businesses and, well, even existing businesses that a feather banner tends to be a pretty popular type of temporary sign to use. So we're proposing if we eliminate, but it cannot move, for example, feather signs, that a feather sign would be allowed. However, it would still be considered a temporary sign, and it would have to comply with the temporary sign regulations, location, height, size, and have to get a permit. So they still would be regulated and need to get a permit. So in subsequent to this, we also had to amend the feather sign definition and add calling it a temporary sign. We added the word temporary so that way somebody couldn't apply for that to be a permanent sign. Good. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, let me
Yes.
ask, when someone
Yes.
requests a permit, are there dates, like it's specified on there?
So
What
we-
the time frame is?
We would write it into the conditions portion of the permit. We try to work with that owner to, do they want to put up this temporary sign a month from now or 3 days from now? So we want to work with them to see what that time period is they want. But it can either be basically the 30-day increments or the full 90 days they could use the temporary sign permit. So under section 150.84, the sign regulations table, we actually found what we also think is something that we'll call it slip through, or I don't know the right word to use. But there's a building identification sign type in the new zoning code. And we had a call from a business owner wanting to use one in the downtown. And we noticed in the table that building identification sign was only listed as a sign type permitted in a couple of the zoning classifications. And we thought that was odd because it's a pretty bare bones minimal sign. It can only be up to 6 square feet. And it's really meant to serve really a public purpose, showing where a business is and their address or logo. So it's not an obnoxious size. It seems to be helpful to guide people to a business. So we're proposing that that building sign or building identification sign type get added to pretty much all of the zoning classifications except R1 and R2 because, they're residential. It doesn't seem like that would be a very helpful sign to add to those zoning classifications. So we're proposing that it gets added to the multi-unit residential R3, commercial C, innovation and employment IE, mixed-use neighborhood, institutional, agricultural, recreational conservation, pedestrian residential, university-oriented residential, and interstate commerce. And lastly, to central business district. They're already allowed in the gateway. Does that make sense? Any questions about that?
I have a couple questions.
sure.
So already in the code, it said building identification signs could be 6 square feet.
Correct.
That was already set.
Yes.
So can you define a building identification sign? Is it an address number? Is it the name of a building?
Yes, it's
What is it?
It's defined in the back of our zoning code under the glossary as a building identification sign, and I didn't bring my zoning code. I should have that memorized, but essentially it does say it can be a business logo, trademark. It's really meant more for wayfinding is the word I'm looking for, helping identify a business.
So has it been 6 square feet forever?
Actually, the new zoning code allows building identification signs. We did not have that type of sign in the old zoning code, so it's new.
So I bring it up because years ago, there was a request that landlords, property owners in town identify their properties, right? And we've spent a ton of money and a lot of time doing that with addresses, names of properties, and where appropriate, some buildings are large enough, 3 stories, et cetera. We have signage that is absolutely bigger than 3 by 2. And I realize I'm stating this out in the open, but we absolutely have stuff that's bigger than 3 by 2. It's not obnoxious. And we've gotten feedback that it's been very helpful, right? And even for fire, police, emergency, that signage is really important, right? I've got a property that has 1 address, but I've got 5 buildings, units 1 through 60, right? They don't know if unit 20 is in building 1 and building 3, and we've done that with all of our properties. I don't want to see us go backwards. Like, I think that there's a good value for all of that stuff. I don't know if you've gotten any, like I'm glad that you're adding it to all of the classifications. I don't know that 3 by 2 is appropriate in every situation either. That's really what I wanted to express.
Well, it hasn't really came up, to be honest with you. It only came up because of this question from a business in the downtown.
Sure.
Because the way the building was set up to have like a tenant in front and a tenant around the corner, and it's awkward.
Sure.
But in the case of emergency services, it's actually required in our ordinances that an address be visible on everybody's structure in the entire city. And so we actually handle that with enforcement. If we get a complaint that an address isn't posted, we require it, and then we cite the ordinance. It has to be a minimum size and visible from the right of way. So I think it's just a fine line, Mark, that we're really not going to, I don't think, use the sign code to enforce an address, and especially something that is really perfect for emergency services and needed. And it really helped us during rental, the rental registration inspection program. We had to make sure all the addresses were posted, and we were able to see where units were located and that a unit existed. And so I think there's just kind of a delicate line between this type of sign and, really needing these for emergency purposes.
It makes sense. Yeah. No, thank you.
Okay, anything else on that? Again, open any questions or suggestions as you consider all these changes. So the next changes is under administration and procedures, section 150.92 zoning certificate. Under C, a zoning certificate shall be valid for a period of 1 year from the date of approval. So it did say application, and we're proposing that gets changed to approval. Our old zoning code said approval. And we caught this one day when we were looking at some permits that were going to expire, and we thought it just doesn't make sense to use the application date, because it could take 8 months to work with an applicant to get a site plan approved, especially industrial or something that's pretty in-depth. So again, we thought this is a pretty basic change to go back to date of approval rather than date of application. Under section 150.94, application zoning certificate, under A and B, it now says written application for a zoning certificate. And we want to just cross off written for both of those, so it just says application. Also under the same section, under number 10, this is basically a list of site plan requirements. And number 10 says all drawings must be prepared on reproducible paper. So obviously we want to eliminate that because we're not going to require paper any longer. And then if we do remove 10, we have to renumber the rest of that section. And then under number 16 and 17 of the site plan requirements, again, we're just wanting to remove the requirement of submittal of 6 prints of final drawings, the 2 copies, the as-built copies, and the CD requirement. So again, people will be able to upload their documents into our online portal application system that we're going to have. So the next one under 150.97, zoning certificate application completeness, it also says the applicant will be notified in writing of any deficiencies in the completeness of the application and shall have 30 days from the date of thereof to correcting deficiencies. So we're just writing instead, the applicant will be notified of any deficiencies, removing the in writing, because we'll be able to communicate via the online portal with an actual discussion back and forth with the applicant. And also there's email, of course, and of course the phone. We're of course still going to talk to people face to face and on the phone, and we're just, again, trying to eliminate the in writing. Also within this section, or the next section, 150.98, we're eliminating filing an application with the planning director on forms provided by the planning director. So again, we're just removing that part, so it just says basically an application with the planning director, and we'll just tell people what that looks like online. Okay, under 150.104, zoning board of appeals, same thing. Basically, it says decision of the planning director by filing, basically they can appeal, someone can appeal the decision of the planning director by filing a written notice of appeal. So again, we're eliminating the word written, so that'll be online. I already mentioned under the glossary of terms that we wanted to add temporary to feather sign, so a temporary sign instead of just a sign. Under sexually oriented business, we are trying to clear this up. This is definitely something carried from the old code that is wrong. It actually references the old code section number about adult-oriented businesses, which is not in the new code. So we wanted to remove part of that definition where it says it basically doesn't include certain types of sexually oriented businesses as sexually oriented businesses, because the old code section doesn't apply. So we want to remove all that part and move it into this definition. Same thing for a sexually oriented spa. That definition we thought needed updated too to go along with the new code, because again, it was referencing the old code. And we wanted to make it clearer about a substantial portion in the definition. Again, it relates back to just cleaning up these definitions to make sure they mesh with the new code. And vision clearance triangle, I already mentioned we want that definition to match what we're proposing in section 150.18. And then lastly, in the application of a zoning certificate, it says a document issued by the planning director. So we want to change that to an approval granted by the planning director or his or her designee. Again, removing that written requirement, and that also meshes with some other definitions where it says an approval granted. It doesn't refer to an actual document. I think that's it. Unless there's questions, feedback.
I just have a question. I have my binder here, and the last time we went through a lot of changes, and I've made the changes here, and then I wanted to do the same thing here. So I apologize, I don't remember. Are we going to get the actual pages to replace them in here, or should we just keep changing them in our binders, or what would?
If you want a full copy, I'm happy to print you out a copy.
Ooh, that's a lot, but okay.
That's okay. I mean, everybody's different. Some people still prefer paper, some people prefer digital. You know, we want you to have the tools you need, you know, to do your volunteer job.
Yeah, I think I'm up to date by putting
Okay.
it in here, but I knew we had changes before, and I just couldn't remember how
Yeah.
we were going to get that, so.
Usually at the beginning of the year, I try to offer that up to all the boards and commissions if they want a new copy. So whatever you prefer. We could wait until these are done and see how it all sorts out and do it after that.
Okay, all right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
You're
Is
welcome.
that all we have for her on this topic this evening? Okay, we'll move forward then. The next item on the agenda has to do with public construction. As I recall, each year we get a list of projects, and I forget, Heather, we do need to vote on this item, don't we?
Yes.
And are we making a recommendation to city council, or are we just?
No, We're just, we're just informing you of all these projects. If you have any questions or feedback, it's really good for you to know what's going on in the city as the Planning Commission, especially as you review, new development that may come up like subdivisions. I do have one change I'll hand out to you and we'll attach it to the minutes. So we did have some last minute changes to the paving of roadways because of Columbia Gas informing us that they will be doing projects that impact roads we were going to pave. So we're obviously not going to pave those with Columbia Gas going to do some work on those roads. So I'll give you this new list, but essentially we are, let me get my copy here. So under roadway, we did have the paving of Carr Avenue, Ada Avenue, Georgia Avenue, and South Prospect Street. Those are the 4 that we are going to have to defer till after the Columbia Gas improvements are done. And instead of those streets, we're going to add Buttonwood, Wooster to Sandridge, Grove, Wooster to Sandridge, Ordway, Maple to Main Street, Adams, Maple to Grove, Rudolph, Gypsy Lane to Sandridge. And again, I'll give you a copy so you have it for your records.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Heather about any of these projects then? If not, then I will make a motion that we approve the projects as they are listed to us and as amended by Heather's changes she just described to us.
I'll second it.
Ms. Denbo,
Yes.
Ms. Ennis,
Yes.
Mr. McComber,
Yes?
Mr. Remus,
Yes.
Mr. Stalter,
Yes.
Mr. Waddle,
Yes.
Ms. Broadwell.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. Next, we have a couple of reports. Zoning Board of Appeals, which I am representing the Planning Commission on, had a meeting since our last Planning Commission meeting. We had one topic that was kind of interesting. It involved the new businesses at the corner of Mercer Road and East Worcester Street, the Wingstop and the Jersey Mice that share a building. And essentially take a little bit of explanation here. But apparently back in October of 2025, they asked for a variance so that they could have 3 signs instead of 2 for those businesses. Each of the 2 businesses currently has a sign in front of it and a sign on the side. They share the building. And then there's this big pylon sign in front of the building that previous owners of the property used. And the current owners have whited that out, and they wanted to put a sign in there for the 2 businesses. However, under the revised zoning code, they're only allowed, in a case where you have 2 businesses sharing a building, they're only allowed 2 signs apiece, not more than that. So back in October, when this subject came up, they asked for a variance, and the vote, I'm told, was 3-3. Since you need a majority, that's not a majority, so they were turned down. Now, they came back to this meeting we had in February here, and what it was determined was that they can't just ask for a variance again. You'll get one chance. They had their chance, and it didn't pass. So they changed paths a little bit to suggest that perhaps Heather had interpreted the ordinances incorrectly, and the ordinances do allow a decision of hers to be overturned by the commission if she has misinterpreted or misapplied the ordinance. So it was explained to them that in order to be successful in what they were trying to do that night, that was what they had to rely on. And it quickly became evident, it's pretty clear that Heather did not make a mistake in interpreting the ordinance. There's really not a lot of interpretation to be done. It's pretty clear.
2 versus 3.
It was not particularly well received by the applicants because they have seen other businesses that came about prior to the change in the zoning code And with the old zoning code, they could get 3 ordinances. And I think the owners that was represented at the meeting just assumed when he saw some other businesses that had 3 signs that he'd be able to do 3 signs. And then realized that he had to get a variance and didn't get it. And now they're stuck with the 2, and that pylon is sitting there, and they've got to figure out what to do with that. But everybody agreed that Heather had interpreted the ordinances correctly. We voted 7-0 to not allow them that pylon sign. I did have a question about that came up too, Heather. I saw afterwards. Pylon signs are not listed in the sign regulations. So does that mean the pylon sign is not allowed anymore?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to be sure about that.
Do they have to take the pylon sign down?
No, it would be grandfathered in.
You mean the post?
I asked if they have to take that pylon sign down, but they can't use
We
it.
haven't discussed that yet with our city attorney. We're not 100% clear on that.
Okay.
So that was the only item on the agenda for that. That's what happened. All right, Heather, do you have a report for us then?
Yes, I do.
I thought you did.
Oh my.
So I'll try to briefly review our 2025 annual report that we do. I'm hoping you can share them. It's a little bit thicker, so if you could share them, that'd be great. It's also on our website, so if you want to go back and look at it in more detail. And you can also keep the copy if you need it, but for now, I thought we'll just share what we have recycled from when we gave this report to City Council on Monday evening. So far as 2025, our permits did decrease approximately 5.9% compared to 2024 to 2025. New dwelling units did increase about 10% from 2024 to 2025. Planning Commission, you actually reviewed a lot less items in 2025 compared to 2024. Zoning Board of Appeals actually reviewed the same amount of items. I believe it was 35 in 2024 and 35 in 2025. Interior and exterior inspections were due for the second year, and we had a successful rate of about 99.5% of inspections submitted. We're actually almost at 100% now after we followed up with all of the ones that weren't submitted. The zoning code was amended to add tobacco and vape stores. The city received the Best Downtown Placemaking Award from Heritage Ohio for the downtown signs. And we began our update of the subdivision regulations and access management policies and guidelines. So those are basically the highlights of 2025. As far as zoning permits, the most permits were issued in the R1 low density residential zone at 162. As far as new construction and institutional, we had, of course, the high school permit issued and pickleball courts, just to highlight a couple things. Under the IC Interstate Commerce zoning, we issued a permit for new construction for a speedway on East Wooster. For commercial additions, we issued a permit for Mid-County Ambulance. We also had permits issued for new construction for Town and Country Animal Health Care on South Dunbridge, which looks pretty close to being completed. We also issued permits for additions to Pioneer Packing and Mack Industries. As far as total permits, a comparison of 2024 and 2025, for whatever reason, fences are always the highest permit application type that we get. So you'll see that's the case for 2024 and 2025. And we actually had our second highest category being new construction, and our third highest zoning permit type were signs, which is pretty typical too. We get a lot of sign permits every year. For new home construction, we give you a list of all the properties that had new homes built. We had 53 of those, and we give you a map of the different areas throughout the city where the homes were built. We also give you a 10-year comparison of permits. So the first chart is new dwelling units by year. So for the past 10 years, we had our highest number of housing permits issued in 2025, so at 53. So you'll see back the lowest was in 2022 when there were 22 housing permits issued. So total permits by year, looking back 10 years, the highest year was 2021 with 436 permits issued. So we definitely didn't have our highest year in 2025, but it was around, again, pretty even keel the last 5 years. We help issue downtown permits in our office. The municipal administrator actually signs them, but we help collect those, all the required documentation, and give those to her to sign once they're complete. Under zoning code enforcement, I mentioned before that you'll see we have signs that we handle, trash can placement, address visibility, visibility triangle. Maintenance of fences is something that we found was something we had a lot of complaints on this year. So we handled a lot of fences that needed maintenance. And that is part of our new zoning code that we didn't have before to maintain fences in a good condition. So that tool has been used a lot, I'd say, in 2025. We give you some pictures of items that have been handled, some before and after pictures and some just before pictures and after pictures. So just to give you an idea of the variety of enforcement that goes on. And again, signs, we always have temporary signs we're removing. I think Chase took 18 this week already, just this week. So not allowed to have signs in the right of way. I already mentioned the rental registration inspection program that we felt was very successful in 2025. And thanks to a lot of Chase's work, forming those relationships with landlords and being a regular contact has worked out really well. We gave you some before and after pictures of some items that were fixed through the rental program. I think it's really powerful to have pictures of before and after, so that's been good to put in our report and show you. I give you a summary of the Planning Commission actions for 2025. And then we give you a list of Zoning Board of Appeal actions, and it's helpful to just kind of see where the issues are. So for example, one of the highest variance requests we had were for signs. So whether it be the size, height, or the total aggregate. Second to that was setbacks and height of fences. Here's a quick summary of, again, the Historic Preservation Commission. Their 3-year strategic plan ended, and they actually passed a new 3-year strategic plan that I will pass around you if you want to look at it, that they just adopted in January. So I just made one copy. It's also on our website.
What page are we on? They were not allowed when that picture.
So the Historic Preservation Commission, they have written 43 articles so far, Historic Building of the Month articles, which seem to be pretty popular, featuring 47 structures. So that's something they put a lot of time into, and hopefully you've caught some of those articles and learned something about local history. I also give you their 3-year strategic plan and all their actions of the plan, that they really got, most things done in the plan. And our office also sends new resident newsletters by watching the property transfers in the paper. It's a nice little packet that we send to people so they can learn a little bit more about the city and all of the amenities we have as a new resident. And you can also see that on our website. We also issue new addresses. So again, we've mentioned that tonight, but having an address on your structure is really important. And we also have the contract with the Wood County Health Department that we manage. And I gave you a list of their number of complaints they've had. They had 64 in 2025, and 50 of those have been resolved so far. Some of those end up with our prosecutor's office, and some of them, they get extra time because of the weather is not always the best to be painting. But we're really happy to show you all of the before and after pictures of a lot of the properties that were taken care of in 2025. And again, pictures, I think, show a lot of those improvements that you may not even have noticed. But again, a lot of it's painting, new roofs, new windows, new porches, new siding, just, again, a lot of things. It's nice to see the before and after pictures. I also give you a list of miscellaneous department activities that you may not know that we handle, but we work with the U.S. Census Bureau every year to change or fix city boundaries, so we have a good complete count when the census comes back around. We also, again, always attend conferences, lots of webinars, just keeping up on all of the planning trends and challenges across not only our region, but the country. And then, of course, we give you an update of all the implementation of the recommendations of the Community Action Plan and the Future Land Use Plan. So I'm not going to go through all those. That would be a lot of time, but you can read each of those and a lot of the progress that we've made and you've been a part of. Also looking into 2026, just to give you kind of a quick overview, We just got a draft of the access management policies and guidelines that Mark is serving on that committee, and he got a copy of that today. It's almost 100 pages, so it's a lot to go through, so we'll be reviewing that document. But eventually that will end up to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation at some point when staff is ready to share that with you and we get it fine-tuned. We also are still working on the subdivision regulations. That's another very large document, a lot of technical information that the consultant is still working on updating and drafting. I also mentioned the Wood County Health Department. Well, they also are due to do their 5-year exterior housing evaluation survey starting this year. So we already gave them a list of addresses that they're going to look at, and they look at 1 and 2 family residential dwellings in the city, and then they give us a report of that of those results. So that's been very helpful for us too for follow up with properties that may need some extra work. But hopefully it shows a lot of improvement, we believe. I already mentioned digital permits going online very soon. Our target date is April 1st for that, and that will be a big change for all of us. But we're excited to get that started. And then another thing we're excited about, last thing I'll report on, is our downtown facade enhancement grant that we're going to present in the next probably few weeks that we hope helps our downtown business owners make facade improvements to their properties. So that's it, unless you have any questions.
You've been busy.
I do have a question. I think you sent out an email asking about one of us serving on the future land use plan. Is that correct? No? Okay, I thought you had asked us to serve on something, so, okay, I'll be quiet.
I don't think so. Not yet. Probably in the future.
Are you that
but-
anxious to serve on something, Julie?
Started on that. I could have sworn I saw something about asking one of us to be on something. I won't worry about it then.
Maybe you had a dream when you were on it before, Julie.
Nightmare.
Bad dream.
Anything else?
question.
Oh, go right ahead.
So do tenants of rentals, if they want to inquire about something that needs done that their landlord's not taking care of, they can go in online and do all that jazz, and then they'll notify the landlord with what they need to do?
That's a great question that I should have mentioned, that we want to focus this year on tenant education, that they need to report any concerns to our department and we'll get it to the right agency. So for example, we have a reported concern on our website that anybody can type into this reported concern and it goes to our department. However, the difficult part with that is that you can't be anonymous. And, if there's a complaint about the inside of your dwelling unit, we can't go inside without the tenant allowing us in. So that's kind of the hard part there. But if somebody reports something, we're able to follow up that way.
Gotcha. With exterior too? I just asked because I'm a tenant and my
Yeah.
landlord, although she doesn't, bug us or anything, which is nice, she also doesn't follow suit with things I need done necessarily. So. But a lot of times when there's inspections done, not a lot of them I fear actually getting done.
And that's why we think tenant education is so important. You have to report it.
Yeah, I agree.
Otherwise, we can't just knock on a door and say, "Oh, we're coming in." No, that's not how it works. We have to be, invited in. So,
And you should, if you've asked your landlord to do something and they
For
ignore
example,
it or haven't.
we had a tree which I inquired about. I know the arborist, she's a friend of mine. It's been dying for a little while, so because of a limb that fell was close to, where people park, it knocked into our metal handrail, bent it, knocked it down, so it's still, the metal's still just boop, boop, to the front stairs, up to her house. Not heard if she's gonna take care of that or...
yeah, and that's the type of situation we give to the proper agency because, not to sound like a Debbie Downer, but it also might not be an actual violation under any of our existing ordinances or the county ordinances. So, some things may be a violation and some things may not be.
Gotcha.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order tonight? In that case, I will declare that we have adjourned. I've made a motion and Judy seconded it.
Yes, I did.
Thank you, and we'll see you April the 1st.